evening and welcome to this special bushfire crisis edition of the latest from 7 News. An unprecedented fire emergency across 3 states. The level of destruction, devastation and sadly deaths are difficult to comprehend. Tonight we're live to our team across all of the major fire zones and we'll hear stories from survivors and heroes emerging from these darkest of days. We have to stress, the weather is volatile, the winds are changing minute by minute, so we'll keep you informed of the very latest developments as they happen. Soon we'll take you through the current situation as it stands, but first let's look at how this crisis has unfolded so far.
We've got this, the house, we've got this, all right?
We face unprecedented risk to life and property in coming days.
Rosedale's gone. Rosedale's don't like a dinner. There's campers absolutely everywhere.
It was completely overwhelming and indescribable.
My husband died 3 years ago and I'm just glad he's not here to see it. It's just, what do I do from now?
Oh my God!
We were literally in the water under ember attack and just seeing the whole of the hill engulfed.
You see pictures on TV but you never think it's going to happen to you.
I have declared a state of disaster.
The trees were throwing fireballs at us. Fireballs.
Devastating. Absolutely.
It's something I wouldn't have expected to happen.
There's no water, we're all running out of food. We have elderly who need their medications.
Come down with me, it's all right, look, I'll show you.
You all right?
Yeah, I can't believe it.
They're afraid to talk about climate change. How dare you? Get on with your damn job or get out. I'm fed up with you.
I've never felt like it. We were just yelling out, get down here, get down here. In about 30 seconds, the whole place was just ablaze. Practically a war zone, it's just ridiculous.
See that big smoke plume? That's where we lived.
I can't describe how bad this thing was. It just moved so fast.
If you can get out, you must get out now.
So we're going to evacuate into town tonight and then hope we've got a home to go home to on Sunday morning.
I'm just urging people, please, if you're not ready, please, just leave.
We don't want to see anybody else killed in these fires.
Yesterday I thought I was going to die. I really did. I thought I was going to lose my life. And I don't pray to the Lord very often, but yesterday I've never prayed so hard in all my bloody life.
Well, good evening. Let's take a look at what we know right now across the country. There's a state of emergency in New South Wales where 12 emergency warnings are right now in place. In Victoria, where a state of disaster has been declared, 16 fires are burning at emergency level or higher. A total of 6 people right now are missing. That number's been updated. 23 people have been killed as a result of the bushfires. On top of that, thousands of homes have been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands have been evacuated. Let's go now to Kangaroo Island off the coast of South Australia. 2 people have lost their lives after catastrophic bushfires tearing through more than a third of the island. The fires also destroyed a significant amount of property, including a hotel that was once the country's best. 7 News reporter Mark Moody joins us now from the island. Mark, good evening to you. The blaze there has been described as, quote, virtually unstoppable. What do we know about the 2 people who've lost their lives?
Yeah, good evening, Michael. In the past about 90 minutes or so, we've learned that the victims found one of them in a burnt-out car, the other about 200 metres up the highway. 78-year-old Dick Lang and his son Clayton. Now, Dick Lang is very well known in these parts. He's a pilot. He ran a charter business out of Adelaide Airport and also had a farm here on the island. He and his son Clayton had spent the past 2 days fighting the fires here on the island. They were heading back to their farm at the peak of this fire yesterday afternoon when they got caught on the highway, the Playford Highway, not far from where I am here tonight. Dick Lang's body was found in the car, we believe, early this morning, and his son Clayton's about 220 metres up the highway, trying, we assume, to outrun these flames, but clearly didn't stand a chance, Michael.
Goodness me. All right. Now, look, Mark, the resort lost, and that in itself has been quite amazing there. That was owned by Dick Smith's daughter. It was internationally renowned.
Yeah, that's right. The Southern Ocean Lodge is renowned right around the world, not just here in Australia. The pictures we've seen from the 7 News helicopter today are quite amazing and obviously heartbreaking for the operators there. We were hearing reports yesterday afternoon that was on fire. It was being affected by this blaze, but it wasn't until we saw it from the air that we realised just how badly damaged this is. This is somewhere that people come from right around the world. They spend at least $2,000 a night just to stay there. The views are incredible, obviously, the full kind of luxury experience. Well, they evacuated the lodge early in the day yesterday. They got everyone out. There were 6 people left there as this fire raged towards it. They actually had to get inside a bunker there as this fire came through. Thankfully, they are all safe and well tonight. There were no injuries reported from that site, Michael.
All right, Mark, we also know that Kangaroo Island is home to an incredible koala population, a very precious population. Is it true that that's been devastated tonight?
Absolutely, yeah. About 50,000 koalas, they estimate, were living on the island. We're hearing tonight that up to half of that population has been wiped out. Those that are still living are in a really bad way. We've been out to a local park today on the safe side of the island where they're treating those koalas tonight for horrific burns. It is awful to see, and we believe that many more will probably die of those injuries in the coming days and weeks. But it's the livestock too, tens of thousands of cows and sheep. The farmers are out there tonight with their rifles, putting those down, putting them out of their misery. It is just heartbreaking. Tourism and agriculture is the lifeblood of the economy here, and both of those have been wiped out in the past couple of days.
All right, that is just awful. All right, Mark Mooney on Kangaroo Island, thank you for that tonight. Let's go to Victoria now. In Malakuta, apocalyptic scenes have played out since New Year's Day, and our reporter Cassie Zervos is there for us tonight. Cassie, hello to you. Now, since early this afternoon, as we can see behind you there, the sun has been completely blocked out. Talk us through those scenes.
That's right, Michael. Like you said, from 2:30 this afternoon, it looked more like it was midnight. The sky was a blanket of red haze and thick black smoke. There was embers and ash falling from the sky. It was incredibly hard to breathe and hard to see, like it is right now. Now, this all comes after more than 4,000 people were forced to flee to the foreshore earlier in the week after a raging bushfire took hold. Yesterday, we saw 2 Navy ships come and evacuate more than 1,000 people who are thankful to be leaving Malakuta behind. I am told that the smoke has been caused from a strong westerly wind coming in and that there is no immediate fire threat.
Cassie, just update us on that evacuation to the Navy ships. How many people remain trapped on that coastline now?
Well, Michael, the people who do remain in town are young families with toddlers. They were actually meant to evacuate today by aircraft, but because of these horrid conditions, they're still stranded here. So this afternoon and early tonight, the Navy has briefed those in town, including the media, to let them know that those families will have a chance to go tomorrow. They'll be sending in another Navy ship, so those people who do want to leave and say goodbye to this horror, they will have that opportunity. Michael?
Amazing scenes behind you there, Cassie. Pitch darkness right now. Thanks for joining us. Now, East Gippsland's certainly been one of the hardest hit regions in the nation, and Sunrise reporter David Woywood's in Brothen there for us tonight. David, good evening to you. What's the current situation where you are?
Well, Michael, some good news finally here from the small town of Brothen. It had been a wildly unpredictable day today, but I've got to tell you, conditions have significantly eased in the past half hour or so. We had those very strong winds coming in from the southwest today. They had been blowing over already burnt out fire ground, and look, the fear was that it would again whip up that fire front and it would head to this small town. Now, thankfully, that was not the case. Those emergency evacuation orders, though, they still remain in place today. We still have the CFA patrolling the region as well, but it is a lot cooler at the moment, and that is the good news. Many of the residents, they left yesterday, but for those that did choose to stay and defend, we spoke to a number of them yesterday, and they said they were ready to take this fire front head on.
It's just hot, and I guess we can't see much because of the smoke, so it's just a bit of a waiting game.
It's sort of hard to read, like if smoke picked up over here earlier and then it sort of picked up over there, and it's just sort of going everywhere at the moment, so you don't know where it's going to come from. But,
so it's just a matter of sort of keeping your eye on it all now, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You just keep watching it and sit around and just do what you can do. If someone needs a hand, you just race out and help them, and it's just what you do.
How's the community holding up? Obviously, it's been an incredibly tough 3-4 days now for this community. Yeah. A lot of fires have come through. How's everyone feeling now ahead of today?
Oh, still nervous. Yeah, it was a few rough nights' sleep for a few people.
Yeah, David, correcting my pronunciation to Brothen too, of the township there. How predictable are the coming hours going to be there?
Still pretty unpredictable. That wind is still swirling. It is a lot cooler though, and that is the good news. And how's this? We're even expecting a little bit of rain. Now, of course, it wouldn't be enough to put out those surrounding bushfires or, of course, break this drought, but it's certainly ratcheting down tensions here in this community. And as if to prove that point, I just want to show you this. Swing around to the Bulletin Inn Hotel, and we have a bit of a crew here tonight. They have swung by for a quick drink and a bite to eat before they head back to their properties tonight. Certainly scenes like this is what we want to see. People have been relaxing a little bit. Of course, the threat is not over yet, but really good to see that people have sort of been able to relax into this evening, Michael.
It is indeed some relief, which is very welcome. David Woywood, thank you for that in Bulletin. Let's go to Victoria's Alpine region, where an emergency operation's underway to rescue stranded residents. Blake Johnson's in Bright as we go to air tonight. Blake, the emergency situation's unfolding in Omeo tonight.
Yes, it is, Mike. The Army's been called in and Black Hawk helicopters and Chinooks are involved in a fairly dramatic rescue there. They're flying onto the Oval in the town and they're taking women and children away from the town. We hear reports that they're planning to defend the hospital if the town's defences are breached by the fire. That Omeo is about 70 kilometres that way. We're in the town of Bright, where ash is falling on us at the moment. Behind us there is a hill. Just on the other side of that, about 7 kilometres, is another fire front, one of about 3 surrounding the town of Bright. Would you believe it? About a month ago, those hills behind us had snow on the peaks. Now, ash is falling.
It is extraordinary. The conditions there, Blake, are they as unpredictable as everywhere else at the moment?
They are, mostly because of the wind, and there's steep valleys here. So with the 3 or 4 fires that are burning around the town of Bright, the concern is that they'll eventually meet and create one enormous fire front. Bright is one of the towns that has really been is empty at the moment. About 15,000 tourists got out of here on Thursday, leaving the town like a ghost town. No one wanting to take any chances with this beautiful spot, really, but sitting in a valley surrounded by 4 or 5 peaks. So if the fire does get going here, it could be a very dangerous spot to be.
All right, Blake Johnson, thank you for joining us this evening. Also in the Alpine region, the Corryong fire is worsening as we go to air. Georgia Comensoli's nearby in Tallangatta right now. Georgia, let's go to you. Good evening. The fire there, still at emergency level?
Yeah, it is, Michael. The Corryong fire is quite large. It covers over 120,000 hectares and reaches right up to the New South Wales border around the Green Valley, right down towards Mount Kosciuszko. For that area, it is far too late for anyone to leave, and there is still a number of residents in different towns who are isolated by these fire conditions. They have worsened in the last couple of hours, so right now there are many people just trying to defend their properties and stay safe and find some shelter.
Georgia, what the record heat and strong winds, are firefighters even able to contain that blaze?
Well, certainly not anytime soon. The winds have really only picked up in the last few hours, and we've only felt a small bit of that change come through here in Tallangatta. We expect there'll be more winds later throughout the night, and I can tell you that the temperature inside the fire zone, probably around 60 kilometres east of where we are now, is over 48 degrees. We've had some record temperatures up near the border northeast. Albury had its hottest day on record at around 46 degrees. They're not great conditions for fire, and we've just had 100 new fresh firefighters arrive here at the staging ground so they can be ready and go and relieve those fire crews who are still in the fire zone tonight. Michael?
They've got a busy night ahead. Georgia Comensoli, thank you for that. Let's go to Wangaratta now. And the country Victorian town has become a refuge of sorts, housing hundreds of tourists and locals fleeing the fire front. And we have our reporter Jodie Lee there for us this evening. Jodie, Wangaratta has become something of a safe haven in this crisis.
Yeah, Michael, Wangaratta is in the northeast of the state of Victoria and thankfully has been spared by these devastating fires, but a number of surrounding areas, particularly the Alpine region and the high country, haven't. So as a result, Wangaratta has become, as you said, a kind of relief centre for hundreds of people, with the Australian Defence Force and hundreds of extra police here to receive those who really have nowhere else to go. But interestingly, tonight we're at the Wangaratta Kennel Club. They've received not only families, but their pets, dozens of dogs and cats. There are horses in stables nearby, so really a safe haven for every member of the family.
Jodie, local businesses, they're doing all they can there, aren't they, to help as many stranded people as possible?
Yeah, it's been quite incredible to witness. I mentioned the Kennel Club. That the owner was telling me earlier that no one asked them to set up this relief centre. They were buying supplies out of their own pocket from around 5 o'clock this morning until donations started flowing in. We saw a local cafe a few hours ago where the owner had put up his mobile number in the window and told any emergency services personnel or displaced people to call them at any time of day for a hot coffee and something to eat. And it's not even locals. There was a group of Sikh people here today who came from their temple in Craigieburn, which is a suburb in Melbourne's north. They travelled 185 k's up the Hume with $10,000 worth of food just to cook for people who had been displaced. So the incredible generosity of Victorians on display here in Wangaratta.
It's really heartwarming. OK, Jodie Lee, thanks for sharing those stories tonight. Thank you. Now, to New South Wales, the town of Narooma is under direct threat from those South Coast bushfires, and senior reporter Tim Lester joins us live from there tonight. Tim, the latest where you are now, what's that?
Well, Michael, as you can see, we are in midnight darkness here and still fully an hour and a quarter before the scheduled sunset in Narooma. That descent into darkness began early afternoon, and there really is now a thick scent and, in fact, physically ash moving through. It's quite troubling for the eyes after a while. But Narooma has benefited from the southerly change that others have discussed. That came through a couple of hours ago. Wind gusts heavier with that change, but cooler and blowing generally from a quarter where Narooma is not under threat from any fires. Problem is, if it swings a little bit further to the southwest, then it could become a danger. And even from the south, for other communities not too far away from Narooma, it does offer some threat. Narooma, though, one local told me a short while ago, that southerly breeze, mate, is a miracle. He said he saw it as very much of benefit, and Narooma feeling to a degree that today they've escaped a potential tragedy.
Well, he's spot on. It is a miracle in these circumstances and conditions. Tim, let's have a talk about this. The federal government today stepped in. How have they responded to the crisis?
They've responded with a couple of quick funding fixes to try to help. That is particularly talking about a $20 million lease of new aircraft to help with firefighting. So that's another further commitment that the government's made in that regard. They've got another naval vessel heading south to assist with evacuations from Sydney, but also announcing the use of reservists in a deployment to fire fields. The bigger issue that Scott Morrison is trying to push here, it seems, the Prime Minister is saying that he is no longer going to wait for requests from states to move in on this disaster assistance, but there is going to be an extent of federal control. Now, how that federal-state divide on the issue of disaster response is going to work, I don't think we know yet, and how determined Scott Morrison is to push into that space. Who knows? We'll see in time to come, but certainly the government wants to be seen and the Prime Minister wants to be seen as very active in trying to give more resources to fight fires, to firefighters and to communities around the country.
Good on you, Tim. Tim Lester in Narooma tonight. Keeping in New South Wales, in Nellingham, west of Bateman's Bay, firefighters are battling blazes whipped up by strong north to northwesterly winds, exhausted and at their wits' end.
You from the media?
What was that?
Tell the Prime Minister to go and get from Nelligan. We really enjoy doing this, kid.
Thank you very much.
All right, further north, the Bateman's Bay area is under intense water bombing from firefighting aircraft, and that's where our reporter Jeff Parry is and has been with the residents fighting to save their homes. Jeff, hello to you. What's the latest where you are?
Well, Michael, you can see there's a roadblock still behind me. This is the start of the Princess Highway, just going out of Bateman's Bay. That's open now only to local traffic. But if you want to go any further than Durras, you'll be stopped dead. They have roadblocks now at South Durras turn-off. and the Princess Highway is broken in several parts as you head north. We believe that they've got some serious threats up around Milton and around Ulladulla and in that area, so they've decided they're going to close the highway there. This area behind me, that's Bateman's Bay North, and we dealt with them in the news at 6, you'll remember, Michael. They were very severely impacted by the fires up on the Clyde Mountain, and also those Nelligan fires, pass after pass after pass by the helicopters with the water buckets underneath to try and save the houses in there. The fire service was in there as well, but there was also not just North Bateman's, but suburbs to the east, like Surfside, Long Beach, and even out to South Durras. There were concerns for the houses in there, and people were being told they would have to take shelter. So it's very dark. It's very, very eerily still. And you can sort of taste the smoke. So it's going to be another sleepless night for the people down here at Bateman's Bay. We've seen hundreds and hundreds of them at the recreation centre. They're just bunkered down for another day, and no certainty where this is going to go tomorrow either.
And some of them who've stayed to protect their homes, they've been doing their absolute best all day. Jeff, you've been with some of those residents. Tell us about them.
Yes, we were with Joe and Wendy up in Bateman's Bay North, and they were just pouring water onto their home. They're ex-rural fire service, so you know they know what they were doing, and they seem pretty well prepared. But they were in that zone that was severely under threat. We saw the fire brigade and the fire services come in, and they took up positions around in amongst those houses. Then they went in and tried to basically try and hit the front of the fire as it was running towards them. But that's where they're using the aerial appliances as well. The aerial appliances have gone, Mike. I mean, they're no good now that it's turned dark. And there'll be scattered fire brigades around the place, just keeping an eye on things. But it's still, so the fire wouldn't be doing too much at the moment. Tomorrow could be a completely different story.
Indeed. All right, Jeff Parry at North Bateman's Bay. Thanks for that tonight. Still to come, we'll check in with the bushfire headquarters in New South Wales and Victoria to get the latest on the emergency level fires burning right now, plus the immense cost of the bushfire crisis and how you can help. And one of the world's biggest stars digs very deep to help those Australians most in need. It's all coming up next on the latest from 7 News. Well, it's just been announced that the fires have caused major issues with power supply in New South Wales. Jess Ridley's live at the RFS headquarters now. Jess, good evening. Do we know what's caused this?
Good evening, Michael. Well, according to Energy Minister Matt Keane, we've lost about 10% of the state's power supply, largely due to the fire activity that's been happening in the snowy mountains today. So everybody is being urged to do their bit tonight to help out by turning the pool pumps off, to turning your air conditioning up to about 24 or 25 degrees tonight, and also to avoid dishwashers, dryers and laundry activities. Now, the busiest man in the state, Shane Fitzsimmons, Rural Fire Service Commissioner, joins me now. Shane, you've said tonight the worst is yet to come. How's tonight shaping up for you?
Look, we are seeing pretty significant fire activity right now across the southeastern quadrant of New South Wales. We are seeing the southerly move up the coast, and it's gusting to 75, 80 kilometres an hour, which is presenting some real challenges for fire behaviour. We've got reports of fires starting to come together and create firestorms, and a number of these fires are going pyroconvective, as we say. That's resulting in local thunderstorm activity. We're seeing lightning strikes hitting the ground in and around these fire areas. We've got the power infrastructure around the Tumut and Upper Tumut areas being impacted heavily, as you say, with those high voltage lines. We are getting reports now through of properties being impacted and being burnt, particularly in the Southern Slopes area, but also around the Talbingo area in the high country there. Up closer to the coast, we're seeing very aggressive fire behaviour west of Nowra and heading in towards places like West Nowra, Nowra, and moving towards the Kangaroo Valley area. We're expecting that to be heavily influenced as the southerly change starts moving up through there over the coming hours. So 13 fires still at emergency warning alert level, another 5 or so at watch and act alert level. A long night ahead yet for firefighters and all these people affected by the fires.
You've alluded to property losses, of course, but at this stage, any word on anyone injured or anybody in worse condition?
No, nothing serious. I did get a report earlier around the Basin View area down on the Shoalhaven that a firefighter was seriously burned. Fortunately, that turned out to be a misinformation, a misreport. We did get somebody with superficial burns treated by ambulance. They were taken back to the fire station. They wanted to get back on the fire ground. We've kept them at the fire station. They're okay, which is good news. We did have reports of people being isolated, but we've found them and they're okay. So it's still a very dynamic, still a very volatile situation. And as I say, we've got many hours yet to go.
And statewide total fire bans that you've introduced for tomorrow as well.
We're going to maintain those in place tomorrow. We don't want more fire.
Yeah. Thank you, Shane. Thanks for that. Back to you, Michael.
Thank you, Jess. Appreciate the Commissioner's time too. To Victoria now, and some good news today. The number of missing people has been reduced from 21 to 6. Louisa Cheatley joins us from the CFA headquarters. Louisa, hello to you. What's the latest on these numbers?
Well, that's right, Michael. There is good news in Victoria tonight. That number of missing people in Victoria's bushfires has dropped from 28 to just 6, but there are still grave concerns for those 6 people unaccounted for. There is a bushfire burning in Victoria's famous high country. Bright and Omeo are under direct threat. The East Gippsland fire, there was a cool change there this afternoon, but that has pushed that fire towards Omeo, which is causing major concerns. There was a mass evacuation there today. Normally, this time of year, it would be buzzing with holidaymakers, but it is quite literally dead. There are now 6 people missing in that area, but that is down from 28. There will be a cool change tonight, and temperatures earlier this week will be cool, which will allow firefighters to catch up. But later in the week, that temperature will soar to 33, and the Premier has said next weekend there will be more fire threats. So while there will be reprieve, the risk is certainly not over yet, Mike.
Louisa, have they put a number, the authorities put a number yet on how many hectares have been burnt out?
Yeah, they have, Michael. 900,000 hectares of Victorian land has burnt in these fires so far, and those fires are expected to continue to burn throughout the week, so the risk is certainly not over yet. 1,000 firefighters have been fighting these Victorian fires, but as I said earlier, there is, among devastation, some positive news in Victoria tonight, with just 6 people missing across the state.
And the Premier, Daniel Andrews, he's warned that tonight could still bring the worst, is that right?
They are expecting a cool change, Michael, but until midnight tonight it is still touch and go. They're not entirely sure what this week will bring. The Australian Defence Force in Mallacoota, there are still 350 people missing in Mallacoota. The Australian Defence Force couldn't get them out today because of that heavy smoke. They will try again later this week, but as I said, it is touch and go, and even the Premier isn't sure what this week will bring, Michael.
All right, Louisa Cheatley, thank you there. As Australia's bushfire crisis deepens, insurance claims have surpassed $300 million, with a 20% jump in claims in just 24 hours. I'm joined now by our Network Finance Editor, Gemma Acton. Gem, good evening to you. What's the rough cost of these devastating fires so far?
Well, Michael, it's very difficult to put down even a rough cost because there are so many industries and communities affected in different ways. But starting with insurance is quite a common thing to do. What we know so far is the Insurance Council of Australia says there are 5,259 claims that have been lodged since November the 8th, and that's totaling around $321 million. But this does not include the devastation of today or even last night or yesterday afternoon, because the numbers take a while to update. So clearly they're going to rise significantly from here. Furthermore, anybody who's lost their property or means of work who wasn't insured or underinsured, this isn't counted in the tally. So 321 million is the absolute floor and already much higher than that.
This number's going to skyrocket, isn't it?
It is.
There's no doubt about that. Look, besides the insurers, who else is severely impacted?
Tourism industry suffered greatly. Just in the short term, hundreds of millions of dollars of losses from cancelled or disrupted holidays. Over the medium term, it'll take time to rebuild some of these holiday areas. And also a longer term concern that people will be put off going to bushfire-prone regions in future hot summers. Agriculture's taken another massive walloping after years and years of drought. But on the flip side, when you do have a crisis like this and there is such devastation, there is a lot of activity to be generated from it. Construction, so there will be some growth to come out of it too.
Look, here's the big question though. Everyone is asking, how can we help? What can we do?
Yeah, so it's very difficult sometimes to match people's generosity and good intentions with what people on the ground actually need. So any organisation that's leading a relief effort will say, please give cash above anything else. Food donations, clothing, electrical goods can be very hard to store and to distribute to the people who need them the most. Many organisations, some of whom you're seeing on your screen right now, do have coordinated efforts in place, so please go through a registered organisation. I really do want to give a shout out to one particular famous Australian, the comedian Celeste Barber, who organised a campaign about a day ago and has already managed to raise $9 million through people's generosity.
Amazing,
I've been watching the tally go up on Facebook, and it's going up and up and up every couple of minutes.
And that's just by reaching out to the people that follow her on social media.
It is, and it's just spread, so it's a very admirable effort.
$9 million. It's great. We need more of it. Well done. All right, Gemma, thank you for that. Thanks for joining us. We'll have more of this special Bushfire Crisis edition of the latest from 7 News just a moment. Welcome back to this special Bushfire Crisis edition of the latest. Let's take a look at what we know right now across the country. There's a state of emergency in New South Wales where 12 emergency warnings are right now in place. In Victoria, where a state of disaster has been declared, 16 fires are burning at emergency level or higher. A total of 6 people are now right now missing. 23 people have been killed as a result of the bushfires. On top of that, thousands of homes have been destroyed. Hundreds of thousands have been evacuated. And the bushfire crisis has caught the eye of one of the world's biggest music stars. This is quite amazing. Pop icon Pink has announced an incredibly generous pledge on Twitter. She said this evening, "I'm totally devastated watching what's happening in Australia right now with the horrific bushfires. I'm pledging a donation of $500,000 directly to the local fire services that are battling so hard on the front lines." My heart goes out to our friends and family in Oz. The superstar singer also shared links and urged her 32 million Twitter followers to follow her lead and donate. Extraordinary generosity. Now, we'll be following this bushfire crisis throughout the evening with more from our team of reporters in the field. And I'll be back with more of the latest from 7 News at 10 p.m. tonight. We'll also hear about an incredibly close call for thousands of wildlife and what's really driving these bushfires. I'm joined by a forensic fire expert. For now, though, I'm Michael Usher from the team here at 7 News. Thanks for joining us. Where possible, please stay safe.